This is an Aquael Glossy, which is a very popular aquarium. I think I've serviced 5 of these in the last 3 days. They're a very beautiful, stylish looking tank. And this one is set up with an assortment of cichlids. Now with cichlids, it's really important that you have enough fish, because you'll find that if you don't have enough fish, you'll find they'll hide, and you'll find that they do become quite aggressive. The next thing is that you've really got to be looking at the belly of the fish, because some of these are a little bit skinny. So if you look at the under the gill plate of the fish to the anus, if you see it rise at all, then that means the fish is underfed. If you see it with a little bit of a belly, then that's good. And if it's got a bulging belly, then that's bad. But as a generalization, these fish are a little bit on the skinny side. So I would definitely like to see this tank getting fed more. And I would like to see the underside of these fish a little bit plumper. So let's just have a little look. I'm currently standing back not to scare the fish. So besides the fact that these fish actually just woke up because the light was previously off before I arrived, but when they do wake up, we really want the fish to literally rush to the surface. So when you approach the tank, do they usually run up? Yeah, so that's a good sign. Now the next thing we'll do is have a look at their food. Very common, if you do get bad water quality, it's standard advice to actually cut the feeding down, because in general it's much better to underfeed your fish than overfeed your fish. But you also don't want to be underfeeding them. So what I'm looking at the moment is a tank full of slightly skinny fish. I'm not terribly worried, but once all these fish are coming out, this tank does look relatively well populated. So for you to get a new fish now, it'd have to really be a treasure, and you'd have to really want it. So yeah, you do have some quite aggressive fish in there, like Labiotropheus, like that fella there with the nose. Are you having trouble with that aggression with any of them?
The venisters.
Yes.
The one big venisters.
Yes.
And the electric blue, 2 big electric blues.
See, as a generalization, they're usually good bosses. So an electric blue, Venustus has got a reputation as being a good boss. So what a good boss will do is give everyone a little bit of a hurry up, but not actually hurt anyone. So if you see him going around bullying the other fish, but not hurting them, then that's a good thing. It's like having a strict general looking after the rest of the sergeants, or whatever you want to call it. So if you notice an individual that's aggressive, that keeps picking on one other fish, and then when the fish runs away, if the fish is still panting, then that's bad. That means that the fish has suffered stress due to that interaction. On the other hand, if the fish swims off and the other one just swims off fine and doesn't gasp, then it's probably nothing to worry about. Now, fish food. So here we've got Danichi. Danichi is about the highest quality food you can buy. And then Spectrum, particularly the probiotics, is about the cleanest food you can buy. Now, looking at the distribution of fish, probably all of them look a little bit on the thin side. The other thing I'll just say is that size pellet and that pellet is relatively similar in size. So it is good to get a range of different size pellets, because different pellets are going to advantage different fish. Oi. Fine. Okay, so if you had, say, some wafers, Spectrum's wafers, they're really great to allow the fish to graze on them. And other than that, this is probably a pretty good size pellet for these fish. But looking at the fish, and as you start to fatten them up a little bit, if you notice the smaller ones are not putting on weight, then you might want to go for a smaller size pellet. If you notice that the bigger ones are not putting on weight, then you might want to go for a bigger pellet. And having some wafer is something I would definitely do. I would definitely add some wafer to this tank. How long since the canister's been cleaned?
About 4 months now.
Oh.
Last was clean.
Okay, right. Okay, so we normally recommend they're cleaned once a month, but I'll know by how clean it is. So if yeah, I'll tell in a second. But in a perfect world, we'd clean it once a month, particularly because there's a lot of fish in this tank. So you will reach biological capacity. So cleaning a canister once a quarter, that really isn't unusual behaviour. But particularly due to how many fish are in this tank, as these fish are waking up, fish are coming out of everywhere, which is what happens. So basically, the more fish you have, the more stress there's going to be on the filter. So therefore, the more the filter should be getting cleaned. How often are you doing water changes?
About once 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, good. Okay. So I'm very happy to hear that you're doing, and you're using a gravel cleaner when you're doing the water change? Okay, so I'm very happy to hear that. Because what happens over time, particularly with this many fish in the tank, is that they're all releasing what we call accumulants. So accumulants is all the different things that we can't really test for, that we don't really know much about, but they build up in the water and eventually have a consequence. So regular water changes, like changing about a quarter of it every 3 weeks, that's going to help a lot. But also there are products such as polyfilter. If you did consider putting polyfilter in the filter, polyfilter will remove accumulants by adsorbing and absorbing anything that's impure in the water. But the other thing that this tank is going to win with is the food. So fish keeping is 50% the quality of the food. And so the quality of this food is excellent. We do need to feed more because the fish are a little bit skinny, but that's okay. And it has a very good filter. It has plenty of aeration. It basically ticks all the boxes. Besides the fact the fish are a little bit skinny, really they look quite good. There's a little bit of aggression going on, but I wouldn't think that's... none of the fish look damaged, and none of the fish look overly stressed. So if you look at the fish and you see them breathing really heavy, then that's a bad sign for aggression. But none of your fish seem to be overly stressed. They all look really quite happy and healthy. They just look a little bit lean. So providing we get the food up a little bit. So I'd be including a wafer. I'd probably get extra Danichi, and I would definitely keep feeding that. As far as filterable goes, I find this stuff is actually really good. It seems to really clean the particles very well, and it seems to polish the water surprisingly good. There's all different filter materials on the market, and I definitely have better success with some over others. Now the temperature of this aquarium is just a little bit on the high side. It's 29 degrees. For African cichlids, I'd sort of rather them between 25 and 27. Now the disadvantage of them being at 29 degrees is that their metabolism will work extra fast, and that will mean that you need to feed them extra food. And it also might contribute just a little bit to the fish being a little bit thin. So in this case, I am going to recommend that we turn the heater down, because I'd rather it be a little bit on the low side. So these are very fancy heaters, and to change the setting on it, all I'm going to do is click the top button. Let's try and see it. So there's the little light. I'm going to click the top button, if I can get hold of it. Click it until it goes down to what I want it for. Okay, so I've just put it down a degree or so, but if you wanted to put it down again, I'd rather just put it down a degree or so, because it was set on sort of looked at about 28. So I put it down, I think I put it down to 26 actually. So we'll just keep an eye on that temperature now. And we don't want it dropping more than about 2 degrees down. it's better just to let them stabilize and then put it down again.